anybody can make a really well-composed, beautiful, high-quality photograph these days. And I think that it's important to consider photography within that idea of roles that are constantly shifting, as opposed to I'm empowered or disempowered. Because honestly, I'm at the point where I think that there's been a lot of conversation in photography, especially when it comes to like the marginalized, of I'm using photography to empower myself. I want to make visible people like me because we haven't been considered a part of this canon or whatever the case may be, this archive. And I think now we really have to critically engage that concept. Like, does that visibility automatically assume that you'll have some sense of empowerment? Or is there another role that you can occupy in relationship to photography than I've been the victim and now I have to like vindicate myself?
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot. I mean, on the other side of this too, we were talking earlier, or thinking ahead of this talk about speaking specifically about what it means to be a Black body moving online, as either the person who's pushing the pixels or the person who is being composed by the pixels, and what that means. And I often think about virality, right? And how our images move quickly, and how I have a lot of friends who are internet famous. And I'll see them tweet something, and then you get the meme, and it's like their account is cropped out. Or like the Shade Room will repost something that my friend Doreen sent out, and it's no longer Doreen's tweet, it's the Shade Room's tweet. But then like also the Shade Room is a Black-owned company, and so like how deep can it get in terms of like ownership and visibility? And what does it mean to be made visible when you're not ready for it, or there's not like, I think that we also have this like kind of capitalist view of visibility that I think is difficult, especially for Black peoples, because a lot of the Black people that we see readily are like the superstars or the athletes, and like Ben Carson before he was awful. Like there's just very few examples and modes of being like a highly visible Black person, right?
Right.
And then now you have like the Vine kids, like R.I.P. Vine. But in what ways is like Jay Farrow, you know, the young man who like did all of he like does these amazing like Anita Baker covers. In what ways is he empowered, and in what ways is he able to control his image? And is that something that we should reserve? Like, I wonder so much too about like how we can, like where that impetus comes from, you know? And I guess it's like kind of in that continuum of the history of documentary photography, like, you know, Jacob Breeze showed us this truth, and then it created this fight, you know? And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like, for you, what made you want to go into showing your images, like from a younger age? Like, was it about this means of empowerment? Like, is it something for you particularly that made you see that shift from like, or like wanting to question power in images and representation?
I think that's what initially drew me to photography, is this idea that I wanted to kind of make myself, that I wanted to be able to have the control over my image that I perceive that people ultimately should have. But I think that now that I've done a fair bit of showing of those types of images, I'm not 100%, I don't believe that I approach like the act of making a photograph with this idea of needing to kind of control my image or empower myself anymore. I think that's a really dubious concept. And I think that there's a lot of people who have made really beautiful, fantastic work that's based off of that premise. And the social issue that is tied to whatever they're making images about remains. So the question is, what next? So for me, I think that that's like kind of where I'm at now. It's like, what next? Not how do I make myself kind of look like an empowered individual. And I think when it comes to like internet celebrity, the thing I think that's happening in a lot of people's kind of framework around like what is image making and how is this empowering to me, is that they already know that these images are going to be proliferated anyway, so they want to figure out a way to try to capitalize on their image being monetized, which I think is noble in a type of way, but also in the end, what you're saying is that your value is ultimately kind of a monetary one. So that's the one that feels very, or the kind of approach that feels very troubling to me, and I think ultimately leads me to other media in addition to photography. Because I don't refer to myself as like photographer, performance artist, or like, you know, kind of silo myself in that way. I just say I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and so whenever I'm engaging with whatever media, I usually am talking about the process of looking, but there's a lot of ways to look at something other than through this apparatus, which essentially what the camera is. It's like a prosthetic in a way. It's like a prosthetic eye, and it sees things in a way that you're not going to see them in the way that you experience them. Like the picture of the situation always is different than how you experience that.